Hi, today I'm showing you how to make this fantastic balloon pirate. We're using mainly 5-inch balloons and a few of the long twisting balloons, and I've kept the techniques really very straightforward. I've included a couple of optional extras like the braid here, which you don't have to add. So even if you're a beginner, you can achieve the majority of this design and get a stunning result. For my pirate, I'm inflating 2 5-inch balloons, and I'm going to be inflating these fully to 5 inches in diameter. So for me, that's 5 full strokes of this hand pump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I immediately remove the balloon from the hand pump, because if I don't, the balloon will start to deflate because air will seep out of the balloon through the hand pump. And then I put a twist in the neck to trap the air in the balloon, press down slightly on the table just to round that balloon off. I like to hang on to this balloon and just trap the neck of the balloon against my hand pump whilst I inflate the next one. But if you struggle to do that, then just tie this balloon off and inflate your next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and round off, twist, and then wrap the necks over one another, wrap around once, twice, and tie. And you're going to need to inflate another one of these in whatever colour you're using for your pirate's boots. And connect your 2 pairs together at the centre and just flip one of the balloons over the top there, and that creates a quad or a cluster of 4. I've inflated 4 more balloons, this time to 4.5 inches in diameter. So for me, that's 4 strokes of my balloon hand pump. I'm now going to connect the 2 quads or clusters together, and I've just got hold of one of the necks in this lower layer, and I'm going to place a smaller cluster on the top and pull the neck of that balloon through, okay, and then wrap the neck around several times, basically until you run out of neck to wrap around, okay? And it's important that the balloons in the upper layer sit between 2 balloons in the lower layer. I'm now adding a small water weight to the base. So I'm just pulling the neck from the water weight into the base, up into that top layer, and again wrapping that neck around several times. And if you want to know how to make water weights or sand weights for that matter, they work really well also. I'll leave links in the description below to my tutorials for both those techniques. I've inflated my next 3 clusters to 4.5 inches, so 4 strokes of my hand pump. Again, I'm pulling one of the necks from the base, and I'm just going to attach this cluster. And I want these 2 brown balloons, or 2 dark brown balloons, 2 black balloons, and I want the 2 brown balloons to line up with the boots, okay? So I'm attaching the cluster in exactly the same way, using one of those necks, and wrapping that around the balloons a couple of times. For my next cluster, it's important that the grey balloon sits between these 2 brown balloons at the front. So it's really important for this design that your sizing is spot on and you consistently size the balloons. So again, just wrap that neck around several times. I've inflated my next 2 layers to 4 inches in diameter. So for me, that's 3 strokes of my balloon hand pump. And this is a design that goes together really very, very quickly once you know the pattern. And again, just adding the next cluster. So again, this is a 4-inch cluster. And I've inflated a single balloon to 4 inches. So I'm just going to pull that neck into the top cluster, through into the next cluster down, and then I'm just going to wrap that neck around a little bit, around some of the balloons, and then I can just let that go. And that's just going to provide a little bit of downward pressure, and that will help hold your sculpture together. For the nose, I've inflated this balloon with 2 strokes of my hand pump, so that's 3.5 inches in diameter. And I'm just going to pull the balloon and the neck into this cluster here. I'm going to wrap the neck around this grey balloon here, and then I'm going to pull the neck forward, and then I'm just going to wrap that neck around the neck of the nose a few times, and I can just let that go, and that secures the nose in position. It does now anyway. For the arms, I'm inflating a 350 twisting balloon with 3 strokes of my hand pump. 1, 2, 3. So that is a bubble of maybe 6 or 7 inches. I'm going to put a twist in the neck there, just hang on to that. And then I'm going to inflate my next balloon with 2 strokes of the hand pump. Again, twist the neck and then tie the 2 directly together. If you struggle to do this way, then by all means tie the balloons singly and then tie them together. I'm now putting a twist, the end here. I'm just going to snip off the end, and then I can tie this into a knot. And don't worry if you don't have the 350s, if you can't get hold of the 350s or the 360 twisting balloons, don't worry about that. Just use a 260 instead. Your pirate will have slightly skinnier arms. I've inflated a 260 twisting balloon to a long tail of maybe 7 or 8 fingers, and I'm just going to wrap this 260 around the wrist, and then at this point just squeeze the balloons together and twist them around. Okay, and then take hold of that knot and nozzle and just pass it through the loop. Okay, and then we can give this a squeeze and we can break this off, or we can cut it off. Okay, and then save this section because you can use it for your next arm. And I'm just going to tie this off again. And then I can trim away the excess here and to make another one of these. And we can tie the 2 arms together here. So pull that knot tightly, stretch it out and pull that tight. And then we can just trim away the excess. And then just pull the stretchy bit into this area underneath the nose, cross them around, bring them back. And if you find that your arms are a little bit loose, you can just do that again, just to take up the slack. Okay, so you want your arms just to be sort of sitting comfortably like this at the back. I've got a 260 twisting balloon, which I'm just tying onto the wrist. Okay, and then I'm going to bring the arm down and bring the 260 across the front of the pirate's body. Pull that into the other side, bring the arm forward, and then just wrap that into the wrist here. And then I can tie this off and cut away the excess. Next, I'm going to give my pirate a belt. So I've inflated a 260 twisting balloon to a tail of about 3 fingers. And I'm just going to pass the 260 in between the body and the arm and bring that forward. And I want, as closely as possible, this to be just in the middle below the pirate's beard. And then I'm going to pass the other end of the 260 through the other arm, just underneath there, and then just pull the belt in snugly at the back. Let's have a look at the front. Just need to pull this forward very slightly, and then at the front here, just make a twist in the balloon, pass that knot and nozzle around a couple of times, and then we can just snip off the end and tie. And I'm just going to tie this twice because there's quite a bit of tension on this knot here. And then I can cut away the excess. Next, I'm inflating a 5-inch balloon with just one stroke of the hand pump and tie. This is going to be the buckle for the belt. So we're going to split this bubble in half. So I'm going to place my fingers and hands on either side of the knot and nozzle, and I'm going to rotate my hands. And this hand, I'm going to rotate my hands in opposite directions. This hand will rotate this way and this hand will rotate that way. So grasp the bubble firmly, okay, you see, and twist. Okay, and then take that neck and wrap it around. And very approximately, we've split this bubble in half. Don't worry if your bubbles aren't exactly half. If you've got one that's slightly bigger, then put that on the bottom. Okay, so we're just going to slip this under here and we're going to wrap these around a couple of times. Okay. Next, I've inflated a 260 twisting balloon in black to just a very small tip at the end here. And I've got an uninflated twisting balloon. So if you've got any old 260s or 160s, this is a great opportunity to use up any balloons that are past their best, shall we say. Okay, and then go to the nozzle end, and I'm just going to tie the 160 or 260 on to the end here. And tie 2 knots. Okay, so we've got this stretchy bit at the end, and then go to the tip end and just squeeze that little tip and take your other piece of 160, wrap that around the tip a couple of times, and then tie the tip to that twisting balloon. Okay, so at both ends we've got this little twisting balloon, uninflated twisting balloon tail. Okay, so take one end, stretch out the twisting balloon and just pull that into the sculpture here so that it sits comfortably, but you don't want this to cinch too far into the sculpture. It just wants to sit there loosely, and then take the other end of the twisting balloon and just wrap that around one of the 5-inch balloons, and then you can just let that go. And then we're going to take this twisting balloon around the back of your pirate's body, all the way around, and then this should fit just snugly here. And then just do the same thing on this side and just stretch out that 160, 260, pull it back, oops, and just stretch out that 160 or 260 and then just wrap it into the balloons at the back. And then we can give the coat some shaping here. And here as well. I'm inflating a 260 red twisting balloon, and I'm pushing that as far down onto my hand pump as I can. And I'm just going to inflate with 2 strokes of the hand pump. 1, 2. So that's a bubble of maybe 10 to 12 inches. And then I'm just going to tie that. So I've got a nice long uninflated section here. I'm going to just make a twist there and snip off the end and tie. Tie the 2 ends together. And I'm just going to make a double knot here. So that's what you've got. And we can just pull this over the top of our pirate's hat. and just pull that loosely to the side. I'm going to show you how to make one of the optional extras, and that's the braid that hangs down the pirate's cheek. So I'm showing you how to make this now because I found that if you're going to add this to your sculpture, this is absolutely the best time to add it, okay? So I've got a small pocket pump and I'm just putting the tiniest amount of air into each 260 twisting balloon, okay? And do that with 2 more twisting balloons. So take the knots of the 3 twisting balloons and line those all up and just tie them all together. It's a little bit tricky, but just tie them all together, okay? And that's very bulky and very messy at the top, but don't worry, it really doesn't matter. So we're now going to braid these as you would normally, just a 3 braid plait. So I'm just moving them across, and don't worry about the tension. So you may find this looks really rather wobbly and not very neat, and then you'll probably find a bit of a groove as you get to the midpoint, and then as you get towards the end it will all start to go a little bit awry again. But don't worry, you can also do these with 160 balloons as well, so you don't have to use 260s, just use whatever you've got. And then when you get to about this point, just pinch everything together, twist everything, and again we're going to tie these into a knot. So the tying of the knots, pulling everything through, that's actually the most difficult part of making this. Just pull everything through, and I've got my finger stuck now. Okay, there we go, that's fine. Pull that tight. Okay, so don't worry if this knot looks rather messy. And remember, this is a pirate's braid, you know, it's not a braid for a princess that needs to look really very neat. So don't worry if the knot is quite bulky. But a little trick is just to now just pull everything out, stretch it out, and that is going to even out your braid somewhat and make it a little bit neater. Okay, I've now got a red 260, and I'm just going to wrap this around the end here, just to give a bit of detailing at the end here, as though, you know, the pirate's just tied off his braid with a bit of red cloth or ribbon. And then when I've wrapped around a few times, I'm actually just going to snip off the end here to make this next bit easier. I'm just going to tie a knot. Pull that through, and we can stretch that out. And then just cut away the excess. And there you've got your pirate's braid. So take a 160 or a 260 and just tie that to the top of the braid. And I'm going to tie a second time. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull this loosely into this section here. So I'm just going to pull this up here, see how it hangs, see what sort of height I want it to be at, pass it through just underneath the black balloons, the balloons for the hat. And then I can just wrap into these balloons here. And then just let that go. Let's take a look. If you want it to be shorter, you can actually just pressure fit the braid just underneath some of the balloons so it just hangs exactly where you want it to hang. Next, I'm making a pirate sword. So I'm just going to inflate a 260 silver balloon all the way. And then I'm going to let a lot of air out. So I'm just going to make a twist here and then let go. And then I'm going to just soften this a little bit. And I want a bubble that is about 2 feet or so. So tie that into a knot. Okay, and then make a loop that is about 5 fingers and twist. Okay, you can pass that knot and a bit of excess through the centre, and that's going to help ensure that doesn't come undone. And then we can just part the loop and pass the rest of the balloon through the centre, and that just makes a small pirate sword. I'm going to use this bit of excess, and I'm just going to wrap the excess around the bottom of the arm, just above the cuff, and then bring the excess back forward and just wrap that around the arm and then tie. And cut away the excess. For the hat brim, I've inflated a 350 to a 2-finger tail, and I'm just going to tie the ends together. So for this you could use a 360. Just remember, if you use a 360, that's going to be a little bit longer than the balloon I'm using, so you will just need to adjust slightly. Or you could use a 260 and just have a slimmer, thinner brim. Okay, so next I'm just going to pull this balloon out slightly and just give some slight shaping to the sides here. Okay, and then I can just pull this over the top of these balloons here, and I'm going to need to take a look and see what I'm doing to adjust the hat. To make the skull and crossbones for our pirate's hat, I've inflated a 160 twisting balloon to a tail of a couple of fingers, and I've inflated with my pocket pump. So starting at the nozzle end, I'm just making a very small bubble of a couple of fingers. Okay, and then I'm going to twist another bubble of a similar size. Okay, and it's important when you're doing this that you hold on to the first bubble and the rest of your balloon, otherwise everything will unravel. And then just fold at this point here, fold everything over and take hold of your knot and nozzle and twist the knot and nozzle into this twist here. Just twist those 2 balloons together and then take hold of that knot and nozzle and just wrap it, pull it through the centre of those 2 balloons. And that's going to pinch twist those 2 bubbles. Okay, so give your balloon a little squeeze, and I'm going to make a bubble of about 3 inches. Okay, hold on to this bubble you've just made, and now make another 2-finger bubble, followed by another 2-finger bubble. Okay, so bring the balloons together here. Hold here and twist these 2 together. Okay, and then take the rest of your balloon, give it a squeeze, and just wrap it through the centre of those 2 bubbles. Okay, and again that's going to pinch twist the 2 bubbles. We can break off the rest of the balloon or cut it away, and just let a little bit of air out if you're at the end of your balloon, as I am, and then tie. And we can save this section because we're going to need to make another one of these. But before we do that, we just need to tie this into a knot. This little bit of excess here, and then cut away any excess. So you're going to need to make another one of these. So split this middle bubble in half and then just hold it between your fingers to maintain that split, and then do the same thing with this bubble. So as close as you can to the halfway point. It doesn't have to be exact, okay? And then twist these sections together, wrap them around, okay? So you've got your cross pieces here. I've inflated a 5-inch round balloon with just one stroke of my hand pump, so 2-3 inches in diameter, and pull that knot from the 5-inch into those cross pieces, okay? So that's what you've got. Next, using a black Sharpie, I'm just going to draw my skeleton's face. So I just do some large eye sockets and then colour these in. So it really doesn't matter if the eyes are very irregular. A little nose, I kind of do a wobbly triangle, and I do give my skeleton a smile. I've got a 260 which I'm just wrapping into the back here, and then you can just tie that on if you want to, okay? So that just gives you your attachment point here. And again, this is a great way to use up any old twisting balloons that might be past their best, if you've got any that have gone a bit stiff and crinkly. So stretch this out, pull this into the hat, just between this layer and this layer of the hat. And I'm just going to have a look and see how that has lined up. And then you can just take the rest of this 260 and just wrap it around a couple of times and then trim away the excess. You can see here the two versions of my pirate, and the differences between them are very small. In this design, this layer of brown balloons, I've inflated to 3.5 inches, and I've also made the plait, the braid, with 160 twisting balloons, and the jacket, the coat, I have made the 260 balloon a little bit smaller, so you get this more of a sweeping effect coming around the back and just under the arms. It looks more like a jacket than a long coat. So you can make some very small adjustments and get quite a different look.